Hey, welcome to the trick-taking table. Think class! Oh, you almost got hit there. I'm Taylor, and today, we are going to be covering Hodge, Podge, Dodgeball. You might be thinking to yourself, I know what Dodgeball is. Do you? Do you know what Dodgeball is? Do you know what raccoon Dodgeball is? That's right, there's more than just human Dodgeball. Raccoons don't play with these balls. They don't play with regulation-sized dodgeballs. They play with, maybe it's better just to show you. Here we are at my trash can that I'm trying to block as much as possible because it is not clean and I do not want it to be seen. And we're going to learn how raccoons get dodgeballs for their game. See, they don't use standard dodgeballs. They dig through the trash to find the best balls. And often, there might be things that you maybe don't expect. Some things that aren't balls at all. It's really important that we find the best utensils to play dodgeball. Like, it's always important to find something that looks kind of like a ball. It's the easiest to throw. It doesn't always have to be a ball shape. You know, you could play like they do in Detroit and go with a square. This baker's dozen of dodgeballs looks pretty good. So that's how raccoons play dodgeball. And the hook to Hodgepodge Dodgeball by the amazing DJ Kennel and me, Taylor, and art by the wonderful Catherine. Oh, amazing. Oh, it's like storybook, children's storybook art. It looks absolutely wonderful. I can't wait to show off more. Well, the hook it's a trick avoidance, team-based, must not follow trick-taking game. That is quite the hook. I don't know if I had that many modifiers on any other game that we've covered before. It sounds like a lot. It's not that much. So let's go to the table and I'll show you how to play this wonderful game where you will be playing as teams of raccoons trying to hit the other players with dodgeballs and knock them out. And if anyone can't play through the must not follow rules, or if they don't have any cards in their hand, then they get knocked out and their team loses a point. It's first to 2 points. So let's go to the table and I'll teach you how to play. Look out! The deck in Hodgepodge Dodgeball is 4 suits numbered 1 through 13. The interesting thing is the art isn't 100% done for the game. I have temporary art in place. This is mostly correct. I think the graphic design on the rank is going to be a little different, but you have kind of cute little potted plants and raccoons holding said items that are going to grow. There's going to be more items, more raccoons as the ranks go up. But for now, we're just going to use a standard deck, which, as you can see down here, is going to also include 2 jokers, which are a part of the gameplay. Here we have the game of Hodgepodge Dodgeball set up for 4 players. And before I go into the teach, notice it's raccoons versus the things they collect. Remember on the card art, they have donuts, pizza, plants, or an apple here. This is a milkshake to represent the food that they got. But notice the raccoons are on a team together, but also look at that. This raccoon is holding a pizza in its mouth. These pins were provided by Parker, who is running a Kickstarter for the game that they belong to, Trash Dash. I'll have that in the description as well if you are curious to check it out. They're just too perfect pins for Hodgepodge Dodgeball, especially because, I mean, the pizza is even its own specific suit, so it just felt so perfect. Well, into the game. So you're going to shuffle and deal the cards perfectly to all the 4 players equally, and then each team is going to have a team bench. So the players that are diagonally across from each other are going to be on the same team. So the raccoons and then the plant and the milkshake. As you can see, there's also going to be a joker in this deck. It's called just the jackpot card because it's a Vegas deck, but the jokers in the deck are going to be put on the bench. They are super-powered players that I'll explain later on in the game. But so to start a game of Hodgepodge Dodgeball, players are going to simultaneously pick a card from their hand and add it to their bench face down. So the milkshake player is looking at their hand. Maybe they pick the King of Hearts. and let's just say these players did this. So then it's going to be revealed. And then after that happens, players are going to exchange a card. So Milkshake and Ivysaur are going to exchange a card, and then the two raccoons are going to exchange a card. And then we're going to lead into the play. A game of Hodgepodge Dodgeball is played over at most 3 rounds, but it could be 2. So it's a best of 3 with the team that wins getting 1 point and its first to 2 match points. How the game ends is if a player cannot play, they cannot validly play into a trick, then they lose it for their team and the other team wins a point. The game is must not follow, meaning, like let's say this is the very first trick and it is the Milkshake's turn to play. They can play whatever they want. Maybe they play a 2 of diamonds. But when it comes to the raccoon with the pizza in its mouth, they have to play anything but a diamond. So they couldn't play like the 9 there. So maybe they play the 4 of spades. Coming to Ivysaur, they can play anything but spades or diamonds. So maybe they play this 3 of clubs. And then finally coming to the last raccoon, they have to play hearts. So looking at their hand, they only have 2 hearts. Maybe they play with the jack of hearts. So how a trick resolves in Hodgepodge Dodgeball is one of 4 ways. So the most common way is a player gets hit with a ball. So if you are the player who played the highest and there's no ties, you just got hit with a ball. You are going to, you can kind of just discard the trick, but you're going to clear the trick. And then if you got hit, you will be leading to the next trick. But first, you're going to send one of your players to the bench. So similar to Dodgeball. I hope you know Dodgeball. It makes the teach much easier. But so similar to Dodgeball, your hand here is kind of like your players on the field. And so when you get hit, you have to send the one of them that got hit to the bench. And how you send a raccoon to the bench is you're going to have to send one of your cards, but it must be the lowest of any suit. So looking at the hand here, this player can send their only diamond, so they can send this to the bench, they can send this heart to the bench, or if they wanted to send a spade, they'd have to send this too, because it's the lowest, or if they sent a club, it would have to be this 4 of clubs. That's what they're going to do. They're going to send this 2 of spades to the bench. Then they're going to lead to the next trick, maybe by playing a 4 of clubs. Jumping ahead, as you can see, the highest card played was actually a tie. It was this 4 of clubs and the 4 of diamonds. So this is the second thing that can happen in a trick, is when people on the same team, so the partners, play the highest. So they played tied for the highest. This is a block. So if you're imagining in Dodgeball, if you have a ball and a ball gets thrown at you, you can actually block the ball using one of your balls. That's totally valid. So this is what happened. Maybe this player was about to get hit, but then this raccoon over here had a ball in their hand and then they blocked it. Since the ball was blocked and it didn't hit anyone, no one loses a card. And the team gets to choose which of the players will then lead to the next trick. So maybe after some discussion, they decide that this pizza raccoon is going to lead to the next trick. Jumping ahead to the end of this trick, as you can see, we now have the third of the 4 options that can happen. It's when the highest card is a tie, but it's players on the opposite team that played. This is a catch. So in Dodgeball, you can catch a ball, and the player who caught it will bring in a member onto their team, and the player who got caught is out. So in this game, if, as you can see, players on opposite teams play the highest number, the latter played player caught the ball from the latter played player on the team that got caught. And I say it that way because, as you can see, maybe I could find another 9. Yeah, here's a good one. This might happen, but we'll cover that in a little bit. Let's keep this a little more simple for now. So Ivysaur caught the raccoon with the pizza. So Ivysaur is going to get a card out of the bench and into either the Milkshake or their hand. So after some discussion, maybe the Milkshake player really needs a card, maybe they want a heart, they're going to take the 6 of hearts into their hand. And the player whose ball got caught, the raccoon over here, will then lose a card. And again, they have to pick their lowest, so they could pick this ace, or this 4, or this 3. Maybe they pick the 3, and that goes to their bench. Then the player who got caught would lead to the next trick, so it would be this raccoon with the pizza. But before we move on, let's go back to that one example that I was saying. Let's say this looked like this. So instead of the Ivysaur Milkshake team bringing a card back and Ivysaur essentially catching it, in this case, how it worked thematically was the raccoon with the pizza was going to get hit and then they're going to get caught, but then maybe it was a muffed catch and this raccoon actually caught it. So this top right raccoon caught Ivysaur's ball. So Ivysaur got caught, and now this raccoon gets to choose a card that gets pulled in, and they probably want to help out this partner who has not that many cards left. So in this example, this team would have caught it, Ivysaur would have gotten caught, lost a card to their bench, and then the Ivysaur would have lost. In the wild example of all of them being the same is, again, it's just the later played of the catching team that did the catch, and then the later played of the team that got caught. So in this example, the pizza raccoon led and it went around. So that means this, so it was like thrown, try to get caught and bobbled, and then caught finally by the milkshake. That'd be wild to see. But so this player up here, the top right raccoon, got caught by the milkshake. So they would lose a card to the bench, and then they would lead, and then the card that comes in would, again, go to either Ivysaur or the milkshake. Alrighty, so that is the most complicated it can get. From there, it is smooth sailing. So we've talked about 3 of the ways the trick can end. The 4th and final way is actually also the way the round ends if you don't have a valid play. So coming to Ivysaur, maybe they play a spade and the raccoon has to play anything but a spade. Milkshake down here plays the diamond. So then coming to the raccoon, as you can see into their hand, they have to play a spade because that's must not follow, but they don't have it. So even though they have 5 cards, they can't validly play, so they just lost the round for the raccoon team, and the opposite team would have won 1 point. Winning 2 points wins you the entire game. So you would just shuffle, redeal, you would take off all the cards from the bench, you kind of do the whole rigmarole the same way, and that is how essentially a round goes. Also, it could happen to where maybe it came to the raccoon and it had no cards. Similarly, they can't play, it's not a valid way. And it could happen at any point. So let's say maybe they could have validly played and the milkshake was leading. The milkshake could have maybe even led a heart. And this is what the pizza raccoon could have. They could have only just a heart. So you can lose essentially at any time. Also important to note, it's only counting when you have to play a card. So you could actually win the round with no card. So for example, let's say that this raccoon player up here played a 7 hearts, and this raccoon player down here with the pizza had no cards left in their hand. So they're nervous because if the milkshake can make a valid play, they'll lose. But maybe playing that heart, looking at the milkshake's hand, maybe they only had hearts in their hand, they can't make a valid play, so they would have lost just before this raccoon would have lost. So that's the way the round will end, is if you can't make a valid play either because you have no cards or you can't follow the must not follow rule. And winning 2 rounds will win the game. The last things to explain are the jokers up here and also taking a timeout. We'll do the timeout first. So how it works is before any trick, any player can call a timeout. Each team has 1 timeout. So in the final art, it will look like this, where it'll say team bench and it'll say half a timeout. And then when you flip it, it won't say the 10 of hearts, it'll say team bench, like no timeout. So every team has a timeout. And when you call timeout, just like in a regular sports game, both teams have time to take a timeout. So actually, every player on both teams gets a chance to take a card, any card they want, from their bench and put any card back. So it's like a free exchange with the bench when they call a timeout. And how it works is both players will discuss openly what card they maybe want, and then they can choose whatever card they don't want. And there's no restriction here. Like, remember when you got hit, you'd have to take the lowest of any suit and put it onto your bench. But now you can do whatever you want. So maybe they do this, and they say, oh, I really want the spade. So then they would take that. And at the same time, they're the players choosing what they want to turn in, and then what card they want. And then at the end, these 2 face down cards would then just be flipped and put back onto the bench. And it's totally optional. Like, let's say Ivysaur called the timeout because they really wanted this joker. They could, put it down, take the joker, and maybe the milkshake doesn't want this king because it's really high. Then it would just look like that. And timeouts refresh every hand. So over the course of the game, you definitely want to use your timeout unless you're noticing that calling a timeout might be beneficial for the other team. Maybe you'll save it. Last thing to explain are the jokers. The jokers are super, super strong. They're like your all-star best players. of all time. They're just amazing, amazing raccoons. How they work is when you play them, you can declare both what suit they are and what rank they are. So say in this example, it was led a 7 of hearts. Maybe the milkshake goes 7 of spades, right? And so they're kind of like a get out of jail free card. They're super strong, but each team only has one, and they actually start on the bench. So it's a little bit of a communication of, when do we take it? Is someone really in trouble? Who really needs this joker? So that's how to play Hodge, Podge, Dodgeball. So that is Hodge, Podge, Dodgeball. Oh, so much fun to work with both DJ and Catherine on this. Co-designs are just a hoot. And I know I don't have all the art. Catherine is hard at work making this. And looking at the roughs, they are amazing. So it's pretty much just more raccoons doing silly things, holding different silly items, but absolutely whimsical. I know I was talking to her that Bug House, which was also done by her, I wanted to have different art and have kind of a different aesthetic, even though it was the same artist, and she's amazing, so obviously it looks so great. And it was kind of children's illustration as the inspiration, and I think she knocked it out of the park. So excited to show off more of it. But yes, to the design itself, this will just be a diary, because obviously, spoiler alert, huge grain of salt, I like the game. So this started with DJ. DJ had the initial idea and was playtesting it and showing it around to people, and showed me, and I came up with a variety of ideas, and it became so kind of DJ to offer and do like a co-design. And it was super amazing to, again, I think I talk a lot about on this channel, just that the different approaches to design, and short zutsu being how you design for Japanese kind of like mentality, where you have a hook in the gameplay and a hook in the scoring. And then the idea of what's left, where you come up with an idea of a hook and then see if that works. So like kind of reverse game design, or like reverse engineering, you know, like a backronym. Then this one, where it was someone's initial idea and then you cultivate it until you work on kind of a co-design. It was so much fun. I do a good amount of development too, so it was nice to come in it with that idea and then have it flourish into a design. It was so much fun. So DJ has been just wonderful to work with, and it's so awesome to also do theme first design. So the idea of, well, what happens if someone plays the highest? Well, they get hit. And then what happens if two people play the highest? Well, they block or they catch, or things like when a player on the same team plays the highest as their partner, it is a block, but then who leads? And it's like, well, you know, either of them could lead. They could throw a ball, you know, they could start the next trick. So then it was like, let's leave it up to the partners. So it's nice to have thematic design, but also specifically, this was fun to do partnership design. I don't have announced a partnership game, and so this was fun to lean into the teammates, the partnership of it all. What, in terms of design, when we came to a crux, like which way should we go, it was always leaning to, well, what is more team-based? What's an action that feels more like a team? So in that blocking example, it could be the person who blocked it starts next. Or it could be, well, let's leave that up to a discussion. And what does the team think should happen? So that was really fun. Calling timeouts was interesting as well. We started with 3 timeouts, and then they were individualistic. But speaking back to that theme of theme first design, well, when you call a timeout in a sports game, both sides of the match, like both teams, get time to talk to their players. So it felt strange that when it started, when there was a timeout, that one team got to interact with the bench. So we made it to 1 timeout each. And what's cool about that is you get aspects of the team choosing, oh, maybe we don't want to call a timeout because it's actually maybe better for the other team right now. So let's wait, because they've already used their timeout. Really interesting back and forth there. And it's been so much fun. I think DJ comes up with amazing aspects and perspectives on specifically like Must Not Follow and May Follow. They do Nutty Gnomes and Big Wave, and I think there's this perspective that comes to not, how do I say this? Like Must Not Follow has cool things you can twist about, but I think of all these other types of games, like May Follow, Must Not Follow, Must Not Follow is still blossoming into its own, and so it's really, really awesome because I think DJ has a wonderful perspective on that. Oh man, other things like the element of the what to do with the jokers. So every game in Zoo and More has like a different kind of deck. So Bughouse Millionaire is an extended deck, and Short Zoot Suit has multiple suits, and then the Chai Tea Jazz is a Yas deck. Funny enough, like I have an example here, but I was thinking, okay, what could be a unique deck for Hodgepodge Dodgeball, and I realized we didn't have jokers yet. We didn't have a deck with jokers, so pretty much most of playing cards have jokers, and I thought it'd be wild not to have in a standard deck compendium a deck that doesn't have jokers. So Hodgepodge Dodgeball was like, oh, this will have jokers, and it's like, well, what do the jokers do? And then that is a really fun aspect of like, they are these all-stars that jump around and can be whatever you want them to be. There's also a variant where you can have each player get a card that is a 0/a 14, and those are really nice for, you know, catching or blocking if you really need to, or playing zeros usually. But it's nice. So there's a good amount of partnership first design in the game. I think another aspect is communication. So you get that one pass at the start, but a lot of it is like sometimes you'll put a high card on the bench that you have and you hope your partner maybe will take it so that you can block each other and have a nice blocking trick. Sometimes you'll communicate what suits you have a lot of. You won't just play your highest to the bench when you get to exchange on a timeout or at the start of the game. So there's a lot of subtle nuance in the partnership, in the communication, in the game. But also, I think my favorite part of the design is the fact that it always just ends in a pressure of who's going to get hit. Like, who's going to be out of cards? Who's going to be the final person out? I love the way the game escalates. It's almost like a last trick game, if that makes sense, but it's like an avoidance last trick game. The feeling of it always, you always feel pressure no matter what it is. I think one of my favorite things is, so you could be out of cards, but still win, which is wild to think of, because again, when you can't play, when you don't have cards, is when you lose it for the team. So what's wild is, yeah, you could be thinking you're going to lose, but then someone, just because of turn order, you know, that a spade was played and they only had spades. It's just such an interesting flow of a game that I've never seen. I mean, you know, partnership, Must Not Follow, trick avoidance is already kind of a unique mouthful there, but just that fact that it definitely feels like an avoidance last trick game, but in a kind of a crescendo feeling. Man, I think I'm repeating myself and waxing poetic, but it does not feel like other games. Like a hand, the arc of the hand does not feel like many other games. So that is Hodgepodge Dodgeball, and again, it's been so wonderful to work with Catherine, to work with DJ on this. They are both just amazing people. I can't say enough nice things about them. I am so thankful. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy, you know, the art that comes out, and it's getting to the end here. Yeah, one more week of Zoo and More. Zooktober has been an absolutely wonderful time, and as I'm actually starting to see more and more costumes on like social media feeds or even in person, I know that the Kickstarter is coming to an end. So bittersweet, but it is so much fun. Thank you again. I hope you enjoy the very last video in a week or so, and I hope you check out Zoo and More, which if you're watching this, you probably have. Thanks so much for watching. Catch y'all later. Bye.